what's up? Rafael Cortez here. Welcome back to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We are coming at you after hours. This is a very, very late show recording, but it's just about the only way to get you in the books, brother. It's been tough to get you in the books for the last several months, but I really, really wanted to have this conversation. I know you're a very well-rounded individual. We are sitting down with Ivan Almonte. He's the founder and owner of Muscletopia. He's a trainer. He's one of my trainers. And I mean, dude, just the conversations that we've been able to have, just kind of random here and there throughout, the at the gym. They're so dense, and there's just so much. I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge behind everything else that you do on top of the.
I'm 50 years old, so I'm supposed to have knowledge at this point.
Well, first off, you do not look 50 years old. Nobody would think that you're 50 years old, but it's impressive to see such a well-rounded individual in both, the spiritual side, the mindset side, the intellectual evolution side, and then also the physical side. So to me, it's something that I highly respect.
Thank you so much.
I'm very happy to have you on, man. You're running a Muscletopia, which is the coolest place I've ever worked out ever, and I've been to a lot of gyms, and just the culture inside of it, which I want to talk about a little later on. It's amazing. It's an amazing place. But yeah, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You have an incredible story, and I want to tap into that as well.
All right.
Yeah, break it down.
What would you like me to start with? Why don't you ask me a few questions? You're the man.
All right. So, well, first off, I guess we can start with a little bit of background. You were not. You took on interest in fitness and physical development very, very early on. However, you didn't half-ass it. You weren't the kid that just went to the gym. I mean,
Gotcha.
you went a few extra miles on that. So tell us about that.
Well, I mean, since this podcast is about entrepreneurship, many people ask me, entrepreneurship, this and that. You don't just wake up as an adult and say, oh, I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
If you do, well, good for you. There are some historical precedents that mark you as you grow, that allow you to see how you can impact your own situation through entrepreneurship. And the reason I say that is because many people see me and they see that I do have, I guess, I wouldn't say a mind for great entrepreneurship, but at least the initiative of an entrepreneur. And the reason why I say that is because my earliest memory of trading is when I was around 13, 14 years old. There's a friend of mine who owned a ice cream shop, like in a little office like this next to a building. He had 2 fridges and he had a kiosk and he was selling ice cream through a window. So one day he's telling me about this marmalade, this yam that was made of coconut. And I said, hey, how do you buy it? I can probably make it for you. And he said, yeah, this guy's just killing me with the prices. If you can find somebody who make it, I went ahead and buy it from them. He says, you know what? Let me try and make some coconut candy, some coconut, stuff that they will put in turn and on top of the ice cream. So I went home. I'm from the Dominican Republic, if you're wondering. A lot of coconut trees, and sometimes they fall and they piled up and they get dry. So you take the dry coconut, you grind it, and I just made coconut candy. Softer coconut candy can be used for ice cream too. And I got about 2 dozen mason jars, and I put them together, and I brought them to the guy. He paid me a marginal amount of money, but in terms of the labor I put, but it was enough money for me to say, well, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
And then I did that for about 6 months. So we had a business. One day the guy said, hey, man, I'm not going to buy this anymore. I have a better source. I'm talking about 14, 15 years old. And then that's my earliest recollection of that. And when he said, hey, I'm not going to buy it from you, what am I going to do with it? So I started going door to door and selling it.
So you did a pivot.
And then
Classic pivot, yeah.
I said, what am I going to do? I'm not going to eat all this. So I created a whole new market. The labor eventually got me exhausted. Because we're talking about, you got to grind the coconut, you got to cook it, you got to put the brown sugar, the cinnamon, the orange peel. You have to let it sit. You got to let it rest. So the labor is very intense in terms of that. But that was my first experience as an entrepreneur. Allowed me to see that activities that I perform can lead to business. That both parts get a benefit from the person who's creating the business and the person who's receiving the goods. So I retrace it to that. I was probably 13, 14 years old.
Wow. And this is, I mean, 13, 14 years old. It's early on. I mean, it's interesting to see how a lot of people who are, who grow on to be entrepreneurs and have these businesses, they had that age, right? From a very, very early stage. I did, something similar starting up, and when I was little, I had the little entrepreneur bug, and I would just kind of, put two and two together, and then make deals between friends and stuff like that. Now, so you go through that, and then you picked up. We talked about this in the gym when you were telling me your story. So you pick up this. How old were you when you started to get into fitness? And you figured out that you wanted 18 years old.
The entrepreneur.
Fast forward 4 years from the coconuts.
Well, the stuff is the entrepreneurship thing continued because then now I'm playing sports in high school, and a friend of ours created a basketball league in town, and he had to have the kids that were in the neighborhood. So naturally, I'm gonna be there. I am by far the worst basketball player who ever lived, and I was okay with that. Because I was like the goon. They would just send me to whack somebody, and to me, I was like, I didn't really have that much fun until I needed a pair of shoes. So I remember now 15, 16 years old, I go to the flea market, I buy a pair of shoes. There's this friend of mine, still a friend of mine today. His name is Ramon. He sees me with his shoes, and he's like, hey man, where you got those shoes? And I said, well, just bought them. I went to the flea market and bought them. Was like, how much you pay for it? And I said, I paid I think it's like $12 in the equivalent currency there. And he said, I'll give you 15. And I literally took them off, dust them off, and gave it to him.
Here you go.
He gave me the money the next day. I was panicking.
Little
But what happened is I immediately said, I didn't think, I'm going to go and buy more shoes and sell them more. The next Saturday, because that flea market was just open on Saturday, I go and buy 2 pairs. Now I said, I buy one for me, and I have the spare to sell. Yeah. So I started a business with a basketball team. Then eventually, one of the things that I was struggling with in high school, I was a very, very, very good volleyball player. But I was very skinny. I was so good that I got invited to the Junior Olympic trials for the team B and C. Although it was 5'7" and 125 pounds. I was a center, and I was really skilled. I also had some leadership stuff. I didn't mind to get in someone's face when they made a bad play and whatnot. But I did then eventually, when I made it all the way to the C team. And it came to the point in which now physicality was the reason why you were staying in the team. So the coach, I remember I was 17 years old, the coach of that team, who's it's a Hall of Famer in the Dominican Republic, said, Ivan, you gotta put some weight on, bro. I mean, you have skills, but you're playing with everybody 6'4", 6'5", 200 to 220 pounds, and you are 5'7" and 130 pounds. We need mass for you to be able to block. So if you don't have the physical strength to do so, he sent me to do a weightlifting class, and the dude just killed me there, just to make me do some squats and whatnot. I hated it, but I continued to go. Then somehow, it just became very difficult for me to want to continue in volleyball because I realized this process is going to take a little long. Then I started just going around the neighborhood with different friends now that I'm lifting some weights, and then I became very good at squatting. Everybody wanted to squat with Ivan. Let's squat with Ivan. And eventually at the age of 18, 19, right at high school, I went to a gym in the Dominican Republic. It's called Adolfo's Gym. It's still open. It's been the cradle of many great people in our industry in the Dominican Republic. It's incredible how many great people came out of that. So I told Lorenzo, who was the person running the gym, hey man, I don't have any money to train. If you let me clean it up a couple times a week, if you let me train here, I clean it up. He's like, sure.
Limited resources, but completely resourceful, right?
Well, I mean, I just honestly it was more like there's a lot going on in poor neighborhoods in the Dominican Republic, and a lot of what you don't want to do, your parents teach you, hey, look, this is good, this is not. So I had naturally the inclination to move towards higher grounds, if you will. So to me, the higher ground was I'm getting my ass in shape. And then as I continued to be curious about it, I stumbled upon that opportunity. About a month into that, then I discovered that there's something called nutritional supplements, proteins and stuff. And I go like, okay, and I'm just having trouble now getting myself in shape because I realized I'm not eating the right things. And then a friend of mine said, hey, if you go to that store, that's where you buy protein. You buy this Weeder protein. So it happened that I went to buy my first protein, I remember. It's called Anabolic Mega Pack. It was a chunk of vitamins in a bag, and they tasted like medicine. And then the protein on a can, a tin can, you have to open with a can opener.
The tin can?
Yes. Yes. So then when I'm buying that stuff, I realized, oh, wait, let me ask him a question. Do you have wholesale prices for people who want to buy more? And the lady, yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. Here's the catalog. So then the same entrepreneurship principle, it became the middleman. Hey, man, Rafa, just in case you want some protein, I can get you this at this price. So my job was just to simply go to that store. And it seemed like so easy for me to do, and it always fathomed like, why don't people do it the same on their own? But I was making money. So you want this protein, it's gonna cost you $20. I will go buy it for $12. You give me $20. I make $8. I do it once a month. So I started making money, put enough money together to get my personal training certification. Didn't have to wait for that because my curiosity to reading gave me the opportunity to have the owner say, hey man, you wanna work on the front desk? You're
the owner of the gym. So you essentially got promoted.
Yeah, he's like, I want you know how to talk to people. He said.
It's a pattern, man. I mean, you can clearly see how you're just kind of moving up the ladder little by little.
I didn't know. I'm gonna tell you one thing. From the coconut candy to the tennis shoes to the protein shakes, it was for one reason and one reason only. I felt useful. It wasn't like, oh, I like the money. Or I felt that I was useful to the benefit of somebody else. So that's the feeling that got me involved with the trade, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a move that is going to create a benefit that makes me useful. Rather than I'm going to work for somebody to pay me, I'm going to do something that I'll become indispensable, essential to the well-being of somebody else. So that was my fundamental principle behind it. It was the feeling of being useful.
And it goes to show, like, I mean, it can be done in any industry. Like it can be done in as long as you're a little bit creative, you're resourceful, you can come in, you can put two and two together. I mean, take your situation for example. It's not, nothing was laid out. The path wasn't carved.
It was
you
all
got creative.
random.
You got creative with it. You followed the sensation of being useful.
Yes,
it felt good. Like
it.
Let's roll with that. Now
I
you
feel
have
good.
something.
I feel it was not validation because it's a different.
Well, no, it's
feeling.
monetization.
It's like,
you're getting
I was
paid.
like, wait a minute. When I am useful to this guy, I get what I want.
Yeah.
So that just kept me driving forward. And it's not that I thought out, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business person, because there are people who in an early age, they discover that they have that and they exercise that. To me, it was more like, oh, okay. I can get on the bus and get to the store.
There's a problem. Here's a solution.
You need this. I need that. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
then eventually what took place is I'm in this office. This office was about the size of the studio, and it was filled to the brim with magazines. And what I did was I took a English translation dictionary, and I would just sit in that office for hours on end after going to school in the morning, and I would just try to make sense of what was going on. I discovered that those magazines were there, and what people were looking at was at pictures. But next to a picture, there's a paragraph.
Yeah.
I want to know what the hell is this guy's saying. So I started learning techniques, 3 sets of 12, this and that, drop set. And then now I'm the guy who's taking this knowledge and is like, oh, I know what this guy is doing there. And then all of a sudden, I'm advising people into difficulties that they have to develop their bodies. Entrepreneurship. The gym was one of these, that are we allowed to use X-rated language here?
Yes, by all means.
The gym was nasty and smelled like balls. Sweat and balls. One of those gyms, like a dungeon. And I've always been kind of like a little bit of a ladies' man. And I was just pissed because there was no woman there. And one day I tell Lorenzo, hey, Lorenzo, you got enough space for you to have like a little aerobic class? And guess what his answer was? Yeah, just clean it up and start teaching people. So then we started telling people we're going to have an aerobics class, come in and whatnot. So some of the members started inviting their friends. And so there I was, 3 months into my janitorial / personal training career. So I'll get up at 5 a.m. and watch this
problem solver
body shaping
right
body shaping show. It was on ESPN at 5 a.m. every day. Boy, I didn't want to get up at 5 a.m., but I needed to learn what to do. So I would practice a little routine and then have my little classes there. And like that, I just went. I didn't know that I was doing something that no one was trying to do. It's like,
well, you saw a problem and you were solution driven. I mean, that's
you can say that because my parents were very solution driven. It's like, don't dwell on the problem. You already identified it. Put your energy into finding a solution.
Yeah. I think that can be one of the biggest setbacks or holdbacks for entrepreneurs or people, in a business, starting a business, or even with a ton of experience, focusing on the problem as opposed to, okay, what are the top 50 things that we can do to solve this?
I mean, life is going to throw at you opportunities that we have decided to name problems. Mm-hmm. And the fundamental concept is discomfort. Whether you owe money, whether you have to do some homework, whether you have to be responsible for the repair or building of something or the execution of some task that only you can do and it hasn't done, you will feel it. Discomfort. We call it a problem. It's not a problem. It's, some opportunities are, on the other side of these things we call problems. Many opportunities are. All opportunities are. So then you go from it's a problem. And people rarely stop and say, the reason why I have this money today, this house, this success, this business, this name, this accolade, is because out of every 10 people that will have the same challenges, I was the one who was able to stick with a program and finish my work. So it's not something that is new. It's not something that is special. There's no magic trick to that. It's just, hey, somebody got to deliver this mail from the East Coast to the West Coast on a carriage. Okay, Wells Fargo people, we're going to do that. We're going to get killed in the process, but we're going to bring the mail from New York to California. It's going to take a month.
But it'll be there.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
So somebody has to say, well, I can pay for the process, people who are willing to risk their lives. And then all of a sudden, this Pony Express was born. Right. And now we have the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah, it's Absolutely. When you choose to look at at opportunities, I guess problems as opportunities, a whole new set of possibilities just open up. It's all, I think, it's behind every thought we have has an intention to it, whether we realize it or not, right?
Of course.
We're generating. We sometimes call them random thoughts, but those random thoughts give us random responses. However, if you sit and pay attention to it, there's always an intention behind it. If we navigate, if we steer that intention and change the perspective of whatever is happening, you will see it in a different light.
I will say this. If somebody's watching there, and I hope you have a big audience because I'm a big shot like that,
Let's go.
If you are paying attention to this podcast, I want you to remember this. It is only a problem if you are not willing to take care of it. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and deal with it, it's an opportunity.
Yep.
Either an opportunity to learn or to earn, or both.
Learning and earning is one of my favorite things.
But they don't always come at the same time. But if you decide that you do not want to get to work, then it is a problem.
Yeah.
And as a result, you're building a habit. If you decide, I'm going to roll up my sleeves, I'm going to take this stuff, and I'm going to do it. This is my homework. I'm going to do my homework. It's now an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to test yourself and see it through time, difficulties, challenges, the capacity to understand the situation, how good you really are at something. If it happens that you resolve it with ease, you probably have a talent. Continue to encounter more of the same situations and discover that you can fix them at a higher level. If it's not your forte and it takes you a while to fix it, at least you'll learn, maybe this is not my calling. This is not the area that I can be good at, but I tried.
Yeah, you give it a shot, you explore, you find yourself, you find what your strengths are, and I mean, I think it's a process of self-discovery, right? Hell, you've done an outstanding job since the age of 12 at just kind of navigating and finding new opportunities as opposed to problems. People would see that kind of, I think most, if not 90% of the people out there would have stopped whenever the coconuts were not being bought anymore. They're like, oh, well, that's gone.
I just didn't want to lose the merchandise.
Well, exactly.
Or
so that's yeah, that would have been a lot of candy. It would have been a lot of candy, but it's I think it's also a talent to look at things that way, to have the awareness, that we can see problems or we can see opportunities. It's all in the choice that we make.
Yeah, and like I said, it was that gave me that thing that made me useful. Mm-hmm. And eventually, the story gets a little crazy because now I'm already a personal trainer. One of my earliest memories of why I became crazy famous in my country, because it's nothing short of amazing that when I look back, the number of individuals that I have impacted in the entire industry. But I was just trying to do my best. Eventually, I become a personal trainer. I start training this guy who was a very already well-established bodybuilder, but never won the big one. And it happens that he took a liking to me. I have to admit that I decided to look into the dark side, and I started learning about steroids, and I was countless hours studying about biochemistry, steroid supplements. Now I know there's something going on here. This sport, it doesn't happen just with bananas and oatmeal and egg whites. There's something, so I'm discovering I've been off for stuff. So I started reading stuff, and it happens that the guy had some sort of a question about it. And I remember that I explained to him the fundamentals. The fundamental chemistry of why these compounds increase the lean mass. And he was in awe. He said, would you coach me for this show? And I just arranged a few things based on, stories, I guess. Stuff that you see in the magazines. And
research,
And then you kind of like put two and two together and say, if you do this and this and this. So I put them on a plan. I coach them in training. I even was like, let me look at your posting, trying to make sense of the stuff. I always a fan. And then it happened that the guy won the big one.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden, because he was fairly well known, he's like, well, this is my trainer. So when that guy's telling people, this is my trainer, people look at me and it's like, this dude is not even in shape. I mean, I'm talking about I was like 140 pounds trying to get some biceps on. But I had the knowledge. And gradually, more individuals were starting to come to see me. I have to say that there were two very unique moments in my life, early memories, that allowed me to look at myself in a different way. And they're not related to bodybuilding or selling candy or selling shoes. They are messages that the universe delivers to you, that sends you. When I was 16 years old, I remember that there was this dude who came to visit the Dominican Republic. He was Dominican. Lived in the United States, and he came in with his family. And he had been out of the country for so long. He was staying at my neighbor's house, and the neighbor asked, the guy asked the neighbor, do you know any of these kids that knows the city? And she said, Ivan can help you out. All of a sudden, this guy pays me to take him around the city, and he took a liking to me. So I remember, I was 16 years old. I remember that after a while, me hanging out with the guy because 2 days in a row, he paid me enough money for me to be able to buy stuff that I never had before. And it was like, wow, I can do this. I was thinking about being a tour guide. But at the end of our exchange, the guy kind of like paused and looked at me, and he said, hey, kid, there is something about you. And that stuck with me. That never left me. It's like, what does this guy mean by that? In the intimacy of your own thoughts, you're like, what the hell do you mean? But yeah, whatever you said made me think. Then when I'm 19 years old, I'm already a trainer. I'm at that place. It's called Adolfo's Gym in Guerrilla, if you're watching from the Dominican Republic. This guy was, to us, a mythical figure, a guy who made it out of the neighborhood. He was an MD. So he will come to that place on Saturdays because his mother still lived in that neighborhood. So it's the guy who made it. He would never talk to anyone. He would come in only on Saturdays. He put his Walkman on, which was, for us, incredible.
He had a Walkman? Wow.
Yeah, he had a Walkman. He had his own belts. He had cool workout clothes. So this guy would never talk to anybody, only the owner. We will call him the doctor. Then I remember I become a personal trainer. I'm training this guy. Rest in peace, his Mexico, man. And I feel this tap on my left shoulder, and I turn around. And man, there's a doctor. I'm like, the doctor is talking to me. And guess what he said? He said, hey, kid, you better get out of this place. There's something about you that is bigger than this place.
Oh, wow.
I never talked to the guy before, and it brought me to that moment when that guy, Raymond, a complete stranger, I'd never seen him after, and it just unified those moments. And it also didn't mean that much to me, but it stayed with me. I remember so clearly those moments. Then that just made me hungry. And all of a sudden, I'm not uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, I need to get out of here. If this guy said it, I'm gonna listen to him. He's out.
Yeah, he's out.
He got out.
Walkman.
And my dad's stuff was, well, he had a Lexus. So the Walkman was like, wow, luxury. He's got a car.
Oh.
So to us, he was the
big
man.
leagues.
No,
yeah.
like he really was. Because he was also very well spoken, very elegant, and doctor. You know, in that time, we're talking about 1990. 1989, 1990. So long story short, that gave me this comfort. So I started doing something that, when I look back, it was completely crazy. I go on and find a job at a different gym. I had to open the gym at 4 a.m. and I had to go to college. That was my second year of college. And I'm getting up at 2:30 a.m. I'm opening this club at 4 a.m. I'm going to school at noon, and I'm going home completely dead. But something would tell me, stick with it so you can learn something. On my way back from the gym to school, on Tuesdays, I didn't have many classes. So I only had like 2 classes, noon to 2 in school. On the way back home, there was a national TV station called Teleantillas. So the bus will stop always for me to take the next route in front of that station. And one day I said, I want to have a bodybuilding show on TV. So I armed myself with courage, and then I walk into the office and tell the lady, what do you have to do to have your own TV show? And she's like, it looks at me like, are you out of your fucking mind? And she said, well, what kind of show are you talking about? I just want to talk about bodybuilding. Oh, you have to talk about to the director of sports of the station. So they somehow gave me the opportunity to talk to this guy. And I said, sir, I want to have a segment in your show talking about bodybuilding. And the guy's like, are you serious, man? Who wants to look at half-naked man oiled up, flexing? That's kind of gay, he said. But, it's like whatever. So that started something that has created an identity for me in my country. For many people, I am the most determined person in the world. Because I started going to that station every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. and talking to that guy, I want to have a segment. 8 months later, the guy got so tired of me, he took an account and says, if you can close this account, I'll give you 15 minutes. The next day I went downtown, fate. I went downtown, 8 a.m. to this building. It's in the 10th floor in the Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And I was just there waiting, and I was the first person to arrive. When they opened the office, I went to see the marketing director, which in that time was the person in charge of, advertisement, I guess, in the firm. There's this girl, probably a little older than me, maybe a year or 2 older. And I sit with her, nervous, out of my pants. And I said, well, these are the proposals for this show, and we would like you to sponsor. She's like, oh, sure, here. Awesome, we'll take this off, right? So I go back to the station, and this guy cannot believe it. This dude can't believe it. He calls all the other salespeople on the station, all the producers of the show. Are you fucking kidding me? This little piece of shit goes on and gets his account. Was a national lottery account. They've been trying to get this account for about 5 or 6 years. And they couldn't get it. But what I found out later on, and this is very powerful, that girl was the daughter of the CEO, and that was her first day on that position. I was the first person she saw.
Oh, man. She was nervous as fuck, too.
So, I don't know if it was fate. I don't know if it was orchestrated that way by the universe. Yeah. And to me, it was like, oh, there's something about this. So, the guy's like, screw you. I ain't giving you 15 minutes. Take 5 minutes. So, I went out of the station. I sat down and cried because he also offered me money. He said, you don't work here. You're not on the payroll. It's impossible for us to pay. Here's $10. He offered me a large amount of money. I think it was like $100. Imagine so much. I'll give you $100 and they give you like $5 or $10. I was just crying. And I just went back and said, okay, I'll take the 5 minutes. As I was also doing that, there was a gym then I started my own show. Every Tuesday, Muscles and More on Channel 4.
Wow.
So then I've started this entire new thing.
I see the pattern here. I mean, problem, solution, and then getting creative in between each one of them.
Because there's a show, it's called Flex Magazine Workout, and then all the greatest bodybuilders will get together and do the stuff. So I would say, oh, we'll record that, cut it off, and we'll take some show results that ESPN used to broadcast, and I will do with my dictionary translator, and then do it. But at the same time, I got a hold of that. If I show up enough times here, I'm going to make some noise. And I'm either going to get kicked out of here or I'm going to get a job. So in the same path, there was another place. It's called Body Shop. I wanted to work a body shop so bad. the coolest gym on earth. And I would go there. And through that time, I was doing those two things. I was going to a body shop after the station, and I would just sit there. I'm talking about there was no internet. So you go to this place that you want to work, and you fill out an application and give it to the person at the front. Every week I was filling out an application. Like around the same time, 2 months before I got the TV station stuff, I was sitting at the lobby. This guy comes out and says, "Hey kid, go to the storage unit. There's no toilet paper in the men's restroom." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go. Where is it?" And the dude is like, "You work here and you don't even know where it's at?" And I happens to say, "Sir, I don't work here. I'm just trying to get a job here." And he says, "I've seen you here so many times." And then the lady that was at the front that said, obviously didn't like me. Never told the guy about it. Had to see this guy say it. "I want to hire this kid. He's so determined. He's always here." So they gave me a job at that gym. Now I'm working at the best gym in Santo Domingo. And all of a sudden, a couple months later, I'm on national television, 5 minutes, live, talking about bodybuilding. 2 weeks ago, we had Flex Wheeler at Muscletopia USA. The first show that I did was with Flex Wheeler.
Are you serious?
When he turned pro.
Wow.
No, he lost to Kevin Lebroni. So that 1992 USA Championship, he lost to Kevin Lebroni, who's one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, just like Flex is. So there I am. I edited 3 minutes of that. So I would say, Then eventually, the station gave me 15 minutes. So these things happen, and you create a trickle-down effect. Now I'm working in a body shop. I'm doing really well there. I'm learning about this stuff, meeting people. I remember that Shaq was a rookie in 1992, 93, something like that. So he signed a deal with Reebok, and I was training a guy who was a basketball player. His name is Al Horford. If that name resonates with you, it's the father of Tito Horford, which is the father of Al Horford, which is an NBA center. He plays for the Boston Celtics, the Hawks. I think he's with the Washington Wizards now, or Oklahoma City Thunder. So I trained his dad because he took a liking to me. This kid, he always trying to do something. So I was training him. He won the MVP of the league in the Dominican Republic, and he would say, "Oh, I have a trainer." And then all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, that trainer."
Yeah.
So I started getting
Now it's a
business in
name.
the gym.
You're a national.
And then now, like, this guy's on TV also.
Yeah.
Mind you, I don't even have money to buy a pair of shoes.
But you're the guy on TV.
Well, the show didn't have sponsors. I was just, they were just, I said filler, because the guy realized people like this stuff.
Yeah.
We don't make any money with it, but we get an audience.
Yeah.
Long story short, Shaq is there, and it's just a shit. I remember meeting Shaq, and I was like, wow, this is like a dream. I'm working at this gym. I'm meeting all these people. I'm training, so I build a name, and I'm going to segue into that so you understand the importance of me working at that gym. I meet Rafael, which is one of my best friends, a trainer, and Kukin, who are some already established trainers, really popular. People love him. They wanted to work with him. They have names. So take it out of there, and then go back to the station. 7 or 8 months into that, I'm at a local fitness competition. This guy comes in, approaches me, and says, "Hey, Ivan, you're Ivan Amante. I see you at the show and whatnot. We would like you to come to our headquarters and talk about how athletes need to use protein and creatine." I knew I was already buying and selling supplements, and I was talking about bodybuilding. I knew that was used in this way for that. They offered me about $100. I was just so excited. I show up, and I realized I was invited to the headquarters of GNC in the Dominican Republic. So I prepare my little presentation, and I tell athletes need to take protein because of this and that. Creatine is a non-essential amino acid that does this and that. All of a sudden, they are super happy with me. And They invited me a second time and a third time. I try to tell them, why don't you guys sponsor the show? We don't have a budget for that. We really don't. We just like you to teach the employees how to present this product. About 2 months into that, GNC offered me a position there as the assistant director of sports nutrition. There's a gentleman there who's a friend of mine now, still to this point. His name is Marcos Gomez. Marcos is just a brilliant guy, but we just got along so well, it couldn't fail. And that's one of the things that I tell people. When entrepreneurship meets chemistry, magic happens. So make sure that when you are doing business with someone, yeah, the money is important, the transaction, put everything in paper the right way. But if you have chemistry with a person, the magic that you can manifest is just off the hook. So here I am. Now I'm training people at this gym. I'm on TV. GNC wants me to work for them. And then I accepted. How did I make it work? Very simple. I told GNC, look, I don't want to stop being a trainer. I love training people. And then I already had a good position because eventually I got invited to another gym to be like the assistant personal training manager. Now I was already finding my way. And then I'm working on TV, and just it was easy for me to get a job because people say, oh, this is the kid that's on TV. I would say, well, I work on TV. Oh, yeah, I'll hire you. So it made it real easy. It made it so easy that eventually I remember the number of times I would tell people no about an opportunity because I had so many. Go back to that gym when I met Rafael and Cuquin. Rafael has this friend. His name is Oscar Ledesma. Oscar Ledesma is a guy who was a merchant marine for many years, and they were auctioning 3 containers filled with gym equipment. And he literally bought it for like $1,000, something that was worth like $250,000, because that was on the ports there, imported from Italy, some bunch of Italian gym equipment. So he bought it in the port of New York, and all he had to do is pay the freight to bring it to the Dominican Republic. But he bought it 2 years prior, and storage was killing him.
Sitting there, yeah.
So he wanted to sell it. Nobody was buying it because it was European gym equipment. Oh, it's out. There's no service for them. So his only solution to not lose the money was to open a gym. So he asked Rafael, I want to open a gym. I don't know anything about this stuff. He said, I have a kid. He's going to make it happen. His name is Ivan. So now I'm doing all this, and he says, man, I need you to help me out with this. I'll pay you whatever you want. Let's do it late at night. So I'm going to this place. I helped the guy put this gym together. It's Oscar's gym. It was a very popular gym. Unfortunately, Oscar sold it and all their company took over. And we opened a gym. Now I open the gym. I help him open the gym. He pays me. Everything is happy. I leave a week later. It's like, dude, I'm lost. I don't know what to do here. How do all these people want workouts. And so Oscar, okay, maybe my days off were Tuesdays and Wednesdays from GNC because we had to do promotions and whatnot and go to the stores and do demos and stuff. And then here I am helping Oscar. So he says, why don't we do this? On your day off, I'll pay you. I'll make you an office and you come and make appointments, 30-minute appointments with every client. They schedule it. And then you talk to them about how to work out. We write the workouts for them, and every week somebody will come in. So I would see like 8 to 10 people every week. Here's your workout. What do you want to do? Now I'm on my day off working. Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. I'm at Oscar's. He put me on a salary. All right? Then Cuquin, remember, Rafael, Cuquin. Rafael was friends with Oscar. Oscar said, I need a dude to help me out. He referred me. I help Oscar. Rafael is friends with Cuquin. I'm friends with Cuquin. Cuquin wants to open his own studio. He has no idea what to do. He says, well, Yvonne helped out Oscar, and they're killing it. I want to talk to Yvonne. I helped Joaquin put Santa Fe Studio still open today in Santo Domingo. Kiko no longer owns it. He's got another business now. Then I go help this guy put this gym together. The same situation happens. What the hell do I do now?
Now you're consulting. You automatically fell into a consulting.
Now I have the job that I had in the morning that I was going to as an assistant trainer every day from 5 a.m. until 3 p.m. And then the rest of the time I'll go to GNC work. And on the weekends I work. I was working 7 days a week. So those who want success, if you're afraid of putting the hard work on, you ain't gonna get it. You can have the mind of Albert Einstein.
Preach.
That means deGrasse Tyson. What's this? The Neil deGrasse Tyson and Albert Einstein have a baby. You can be that smart, but if you're not willing to do the work, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Some people do it, but don't try to be that person until you are that person. So those great inventions and ideas and thoughts that you have, they are useful when you get to work. How hard do you have to work? As hard as you have.
As hard as it takes.
As hard as it takes.
As hard as it takes.
So
People see the end product. They don't see the trench work.
That's right.
The 14, 16-hour days that sometimes we go through. And,
many people know me by my extreme level of confidence as a person. Well, my confidence doesn't come from anything but the fact that I know that I'm willing to work 24 hours a day to get something done, regardless of the amount of money that I will earn. I'm willing to do the job. And I know that most people will never fathom to say, I'm willing to do the job, whatever it takes, because all they think about is LeBron James on TV? I want to go home. Is the Super Bowl? I want to kick it with my friends. Hey, listen, all the friends and all the sports will be there waiting for you, and you're successful. Take care of your shit now. Anyways, now I'm working at this gym from 5 a.m. until 3. I'm working at GNC in the afternoons. I'm working on the weekends. My days off were Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll produce a show Tuesday around 11. I will be at the show at 1 o'clock. At 2, I'll go to Oscar's gym. At 5, I'll go to Santa Fe and do the same thing. Now, I am working at the gym, 2 consulting jobs, working at GNC on TV.
Yeah.
Money started to come in. Taking care of my parents was something that I never thought I was going to do. I never really did, but I started helping them significantly for them to know, hey, this guy is doing something. I was able to be a homeowner in my country, and all that stuff happened. All that happened within a year and a half. Then I continued to grow. Another segue of insanity is the GNC story. And this is the one that I had no idea what I was doing. I said synergy, I said chemistry. Marcus and I had this incredible transcendental chemistry working together. And he taught me a lot. And whatever you are, Mark is my friend, my beloved friend in the Dominican Republic. Very successful business owner today. We had just an incredible chemistry. So what we found at GNC was the following. The GNC in the Dominican Republic, they ran into a problem. When you own a franchising rights, and you have 7 or 8 stores, you have to buy a minimum inventory of certain brands. Sports nutrition was not selling. GNC was throwing away tens of thousands of products every month because they were expiring because nobody was buying them.
It's crazy.
So Marcus and I'm talking about 1993, 1994. I told Marcus, people like free shit. Why don't we take all this stuff before it expires, knowing that we're going to throw them away anyways, and establish a market by giving people free stuff.
Trials, yeah.
So I think we calculated that the company was losing between, I'm talking about 1993, between $20,000 and $50,000 worth of supplements a month because they were forced to buy it and they was not selling. It's if it expires, you throw in the trash. All this expired products. So I told the owners of the company, and we agreed, listen, give us all this stuff a couple weeks before it expires. We're gonna go to the demos and tell people, look, this product is about to expire in 2 weeks. Are you okay taking it? You take it. So, naturally, free stuff and sex sales. So I told the company, we're two dudes, we're very smart and dynamic. We need a couple of hot chicks to wear skimpy outfits and show their asses and boobs. And we just got to go everywhere there's a gym and start giving people stuff away. Believe me, it will
Classic
work.
guerrilla marketing.
Listen,
right there.
it will work. So we started going to every gym in the DR. At that time, the gym industry was already pretty well developed. A couple hundred gyms in the country, so we have a market. Then we start going to every gym. We're not giving people like these little thingies that you see that you go to a demo and they give you something like this.
Yeah.
We have blenders. And what do you want? You want 2 scoops, 3? You want whole milk? You want ice cream on your stuff? So it happens that we're just giving this away. At the end of them here in the demo, we will ask, we have a bunch of products, they're about to expire, we'll give them to you. So now the audience who didn't pay for anything has to experience all this free stuff and takes home a jar of protein, a creatine supplement, amino acids, a multivitamin, whatever was about to expire, give it to us. So we accidentally reallocated a loss into a budget for marketing.
Yeah.
So the losses were not the result of throw away the product. There were no losses anymore. There's a reallocation of resources with the objective of capturing the market. Now, what happened in the market, which is when you put it together, because we didn't know what we were doing, we destroyed the competition. Why? Twin Lab, which was our competitor, and Weeder were selling similar products. We're selling a product called Pro Performance 1850 and Pro Performance 2000. We're 2 different weight gainers, one with more protein than the other. If you're in your 40s and 50s, you know what I'm talking about. So let me see you a bottle of water. So this is what happened. I am Twin Lab. Every month, Rafael goes and buy a Twin Lab. His jar of protein. They have a market. Now, we, the motherfuckers from GNC, are going to give Rafael 1 jar of protein and a second one. We didn't know what was happening. If I'm giving you something free and you have to pay it from John, are you going to go to John and buy it?
More than likely not.
There you go. So what we did, we wrecked the market accidentally because we put so much product out that the other manufacturers and retailers we destroyed a big chunk of their profit because we took away half of their sales because we were giving free stuff. Now we're not only messing up your market because if I got it for free, I'm not going to spend that money on you. No, this guy's giving it to me for free. While I also take a liking to the other product to the point in which half the time that person will never come back to that company and will remain a loyal consumer of our products.
Yeah.
We destroy the market to the point in which it was like sweet revenge because I used to go to the Betances Fitness and Nutrition, which was they had the rights for Weeder, and I was asking for a job. They never gave me a job. 3 years after I started working for GNC, we bought them out. We bought those brands because they couldn't sell it. We bought them out.
It's crazy.
And what happened accidentally, long story short, according to the company, GNC became the #1 retailer source supplements in the country for 8 years in a row. Then I moved to the United States, and they have been in 3rd place since then. They call me from time to time. Don't get mad at me. But I'm too expensive for you to pay me whatever you want. I have to ask for how much I want now. So, yeah. So, because one of the owners revealed to me, they wanted to hire me. And one of them desperate says, Ivan, listen, we dropped to 3rd place. We got 56 stores. All the other companies combined don't even have 30. And we, with the powers that we have, we are 3rd place in volume. because we do not have the individuals here who can drive this market and put it out there. The dynamic duo that was you and Marcus was gone when you moved to the United States. So there you have it. I never imagined, and I have to be very thankful with GNC Corporate in the Dominican Republic, Scobita Salud, because they really spend a great deal of money in my education. They really, any clinic I wanted to assist about supplements, nutrition, exercise, or manufacturing of supplements, they will pay. Any medical research that indicated that supplements could be important, whether it's colon health, muscular health, rehab. Every month, GNC pay for something to help me build my education, my career. I'm forever grateful for them. They probably spend more money than I've ever spent myself in my own education. I spend plenty, and I'm very thankful for that. So,
Well, I mean, I think it goes to show that, whenever you have the mindset of contribution, the mindset of feeling helpful, feeling useful for somebody else.
Which one's my water?
I don't know.
This, I had a little more water.
You have that mindset. It's people, companies, organizations, opportunities will come up and people will invest on you. It goes the same way. People will buy your product if you're an entrepreneur. People will buy your service if you provide a service, for example. The culture that you've been able to put together at Muscletopia, I mean, it's I walked in there, I was asking somebody else who goes there, I was asking John, like, hey, where are you trained? The guy's well built. I mean, he's fit and he's into fitness and everything. And
he's swaggy.
He's got the vibe going on and everything. It's like,
he knows
all right,
that's
cool.
not easy to fool.
Yeah, you don't exactly. So I asked him, like, where do you train? He goes, I train at Muscletopia with Rod. And I asked him, do you know? These were my very the exact words I used. Hey John, do you know any meathead trainers, like meathead type trainers, those who will just bash your head in and then make you like squeeze, like everything, the last little piece of spirit that you have left? Do you know any of those? He goes, I got the guy for you. And then he points me over to Rod. And in my head, somebody, like, I'm thinking
this
like,
dumbass is
like a bro, right? Like one of those.
Barely hold a conversation.
Yeah, like one of those. They're always like doing dumbbells and like that's it. Like they can't have a conversation. They can't. So I walk in there. It's like, yeah, sure shit. I mean, I got my ass kicked the day one, but like what came after that was even more surprising. The culture of the place, the level of conversations that happen in there. And I think what I'm getting to, I'm saying all of this because it really speaks to the culture that you've been able to put together. You're bringing something, and I think by now we have a pretty good context of where your upbringing is, and like how all of that spills into the current culture that happens right now at your gym.
I did realize not long ago that I've been the common denominator of the success of a dozen companies. From the first that I was humbly welcomed into to be the first trainer to the culture, because I eventually found out that I'm the first person to have a show about bodybuilding in my country.
Yeah.
And then working for GNC, I think that whether I was aware or not, I represented the underdog. And when a person who wants to try something and believes that they can do it, naturally they gravitate towards me. So it's easier for me to recruit. I'm a dude from the ghetto. I'm the kid from the neighborhood. I'm not the guy who went to the most prestigious college or have the most influential family. Because that's what happens in my country. The discrimination and system that happens in my country has nothing to do with whether you're black or white. There is half or half not. Where do you come from? Who's your family? How much money does that family have? So there, I represented these, he's relatable. This guy can talk to him. So I was able to have people who have entrepreneurial spirits to gravitate towards me. And to me, I was just doing the job of giving them positions in the companies I work for. Every place I worked for, I found jobs for people in my neighborhood. And I had demands for them. Your behavior needs to represent me, so watch out. And you got to know at least this much. So in my mom's house on Saturday afternoons, I would meet with any kid that wanted to be a trainer. and I have anatomy books and exercise books, and they will study some of them. I'll give them a test, and if they pass the test, I will find them a job at the gym because I was already well known, and all the gym owners, hey, Ivan, do you know somebody who can help me out? I already had it. I already had set up.
Yeah.
And then I have probably a couple of dozen people who currently have careers in the Dominican Republic as a result of that. Hey, sit there, deal with my bullshit, learn this, I'll find you a job. You gotta behave this way. Kiko and Herrera, Jorge Ramos, Marcos Gomez, there's so many people. I was not trying to be that cool guy who can do things. I don't know, everything happened organically, and I was inclined to provide an opportunity to somebody that just like me didn't have it so readily available. So, long story short, it was painful for me to leave that because without me knowing, I became a nationally known fitness trainer because in my last 3 years living in the Dominican Republic, I met a guy who was already established and then became worldwide famous. His name is Sammy Sosa. So he seeked me out for him to be his trainer because he said, you seem to know what you're doing and you have a character, you have a personality that tells me what to do, I'll do it. So I was training Sammy Sosa when he was hitting all those home runs.
Man.
So then I leave that because my ex-wife at the time wanted our daughter. She was pregnant, 1999, November. She said, I'm pregnant. She said, well, we need to, I want Evie to be born in the United States. We're well here, but I want her to be born there even if we move back here. So I agreed with my ex-wife now to move here. And, I trusted her 100%. So that was not a question. If she said it, we'll do it. You ain't looking at what you're leaving behind. You think that you're on top of the world. You're going to live forever. You're going to do it again. But she said, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. That's what she said to me. So I seen you grow. When I met you, you were like trying. Now you're established. Everything is good. We're making money. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. But my English was not that good. I couldn't articulate it, not even a basic conversation. I could understand it, but for you to take your expertise and translate it into practical means of executing it, it takes a little more skill.
Yeah.
And I didn't measure that. Long story short, July 2000, we moved here. And that's when these situations that make people scratch their head about my story unravel. I arrived to the United States, and within the first 26 months, my mother died, I got divorced, my father died, and then I became a full-fledged homeless person.
Wow.
2003, August 2003, I became a homeless person. And it was a result of this incredible amount of pain that I had to deal with in such a short time. Both of my parents died of cancer. I got divorced because my ex-wife got postpartum depression. And when I'm in a complete foreign country without the ability to speak the language at a level that will allow me to create a significant income to take care of even myself. So you come in with enough money to have your own place and buy your cars and whatnot, but you don't have income flowing into that account.
Dies out, yeah.
Yeah, so you're not injecting anything into your account, so
cash flow
dries out.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I ended up becoming, in October 2003, a homeless person in no other place in Salem, Massachusetts. So there were some hard lessons. And these pebbles that the universe will place for you to be able to say, okay, I'm not alone here. So long story short, before I got divorced, that was in 2002, I was not living with my ex. She wanted me out of the house, so I had to find a roommate. Next to the house I was living there's a guy with a yard sale. I didn't have any need for it, but I had like $7 or $8 in my pocket. So he was selling a Walkman, and next to the Walkman there's a John Maxwell book, Today Matters. I told the guy, because I'm a negotiator, okay, if you give me that CD, I'll buy the Walkman. He said, sure. I gave him $5. So that was one of the few things I had in possession when I became a homeless person. Never listened to it. It was just some stupid audio book. God knows what this guy's talking about. Then, through the time in which I was going through all this turmoil, a friend of mine, her name is Gina Tavison, she's an actress in Hollywood now. She's very funny. So Gina, London Garcia, that's her actress name, London Garcia. So I was her trainer, and she felt my pain. So she gave me this tape. If you're watching this, listen to it. It's on YouTube. It's an interview that Anthony Robbins interviewing Wayne Dyer about his personal journey.
Two titans right there.
Listen, so she gives me this tape. I have no idea what the hell Tony Robbins is or Wayne Dyer is, but I listened to the story about how Wayne Dyer was able to forgive a person who he never met, his father who died and abandoned the family when he was a child. And then he had this desire to forgive, and how he was able to, if you listen to, I'm not going to spoil it for you, you can go on YouTube and find Tony Robbins interviewing Wayne Dyer. Is going to shake your core, and it's going to make you remove your ego and bullshit and realize the freedom of a spirit of a human begins with forgiveness. Forgive yourself, forgive others. If forgiveness takes place in your heart, all the doors of success and opportunities will be open. If you have resentment and anger, you're going to hold yourself down like a balloon filled with sandbags. I listened to that interview, and it allowed me to start looking at myself in a whole new way. It started fermenting something inside me. Eventually, when I become a homeless person, I had nothing to do. I'll go to the gym. I'll go to Bally's. I kept my membership at Bally's. I go there for 6 or 7 hours a day.
You got to keep them gains up.
Was from the unemployment office to get on the computer to try to see what I can do to Bally's and just kill time until later on I had to go to a park in Salem and sleep there and wait for the next day to do it again. So the only thing I had available was this Walkman and this audiobook. It's called Today Matters. That book truly changed my life, because that book not only talks about strategies for a successful life, from the development of habits and principles that a person should have in order to construct a life with a solid foundation. But it also sounded like my father, who has passed recently. So listening to that book was having a conversation with my dad. That book is about 2 hours, 29 minutes, and 43 seconds long. And I will listen to the audiobook 3 or 4 times every night. And it had nothing to do with my desire to learn. It was healing for my soul to listen to this voice that sounded so much like my father's voice, that was giving me comfort. Through that time, I have to be candid. From the moment that all this started to unravel, around the time of my divorce, and up to about a year after I was no longer a homeless person, all I wanted to do, Raphael, is to take my life. Every single day, I would contemplate which way I would do it. Because of the failures that I experienced, here I am in this country where just a few years prior, I was the talk of the town. I was the darling of the fitness industry. I was making money. I was married. I was on top of the world training Sammy Sosa. Are you kidding me? On TV, running GNC. Boom. And here I am today, hopeless. But that book made me he sounds so much like my father. And I would listen to the audiobook, not because I wanted to learn, it's the voice that reminded me of this man just kept me fresh, reminded me of the things that he used to say. He was such a great, graceful person. So combine that with a feeling like, oh, my parents raised 9 kids. I can raise one. And my parents were so good. So I put together the sacrifices of the life that I was able to see firsthand with the responsibilities I had with my then 3-year-old. And those are the things that kept me afloat. As I continued to read, and I started to discover, because this book begins, I was going through a pile of old books, and I found a book that me and Margaret used to read to our grandchildren. And the book is titled Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day by Judith Liord. It's a story of a little boy who days fall to pieces, and it begins, I went to bed last night with gum in my mouth, and I woke up with gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed, I tripped on the skateboard, and I knew then I was going to have a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. So I felt so deeply identified with that kid as an adult. My day falls to pieces so quickly from the moment it begins. So my paradigm was not even in the book. I created this paradigm. I realized I haven't had a single happy day in almost 3 years. Not a single positive memory about anything that I can share for, even at the most basic level. And when I was listening to this book, the idea flourished. And it said, I'm going to try to have one good day out of every 30 days that I constructed myself with my attitude, with my thoughts. And then the thought was so strong that I proposed to myself, and then 2 days out of every 30, and then 3 days out of every 30 that I created myself, up until I would reach a point in my life in which I no longer remember what a bad day is like, just like today I don't remember what a good day feels like. And that was my whole proposition there. And if you really want to know, I don't know John Maxwell. I hope that I can meet him one day and personally thank him for his inspiration and his capacity to help people organize their thoughts for success. The book is Today Matters, 12 Practices Today for Tomorrow's Success. So he talks about family. Today matters. He talks about family. He talks about his principles. He talks about values. He talks about his spirituality. He talks about responsibility. He talks about the things that make a person a great person and how to arrange them. You can arrange them in any order you want, and the list might not be exactly the way you want it, but you got to have 12 principles to follow, to live by. So that book truly saved my life. From that point and forward, I became an avid, not reader because I don't read, audiobook listener. And since 2003, and the moment I started listening to that book, I listened to an average of 3 to 4 hours of audiobooks every single day. I arrange my day, so the first hour of my day is an audiobook as I get ready for work. As I drive to work, there's an audiobook on my way to work. And as I drive back home, there's an audiobook. Often at night, I listen to audiobooks because I realize I am like a phone that is not updating the software if I don't get something in my head. And just like you have your phone, you got to upgrade it, download it, whatever. If you're using the same operating system that you were using a year ago, you are going to be left behind, my friend. So that's what I did. So from there on out, it was all...
So how'd you get, I mean, you hit rock bottom within the first 26 months after hitting the States. You hit rock bottom. I mean, you had this life behind you, but now that was behind you. How did you come back up? It's hard to get up. Maybe the energy just to do things is sometimes not there. The will, the desire kind of fades away. How did you bring it back and were able to get back on top?
Well, that's an interesting question because you cannot pinpoint one particular thing that you did. There's so many things going on in your life that they produce turmoil. So you have little to no concentration. But like I said, I started to listen to books at that time 4, 6, 8 hours a day. Now, you're listening to a book in English. And then you hear the word perhaps. And you never heard perhaps. What the hell does that mean? But, as an educator to say, and you use the word sesquipedalian or recondite, and all of a sudden your curiosity is, what the hell is that? So as you listen, if you just listen for the sake of listening, you will miss understanding. And in order for you to be able to understand, one layer of information is not enough. And the greatest minds know 10 layers of information are enough for you to truly understand. Not one layer. You read something, like many people go on Google what's the word? Let's say sequester. You know what sequester? Oh, sequester means to take away. They don't read anymore. What sequester is a French word that means to rob, to take away, to hide, with the objective of using it exclusively in your strategy. It's more like to have a secret. So you sequester something, you put it away for your own benefit. But most people say sequester means to take away. So it happens that the ability to listen, and every time I will find a term that was not familiar to me, I will study that term. What does it mean? In the context of this conversation, what is this author trying to explain? So now my English is exponentially getting better. I'm using words that I was not familiar with before. I'm articulating concepts that are more complex, because now you're chasing entire ideas and breaking it down from the deepest meaning that they have. I'm a Christian. The Bible says, and in the beginning it was the Word, and the Word became flesh. In the beginning there was God, and the Word was God. The Word, what we say, has power. And if you use it the right way, that's how we used to manifest. When people say, I want to manifest, I said, I'm going to open my gym. It's going to be called Muscletopia. I gave the call. I gave my expression a name, and it became a reality.
Yeah.
I just didn't say it. I felt what I said. I gave it a name. The word became flesh. I brought my gym to reality because I enunciated it with belief. So as I continued to read, I realized the fundamental principle of manifestation is to learn the word deeply. So you connect the words that you hear with the emotion and the meaning that they're supposed to have. So whether you're talking to someone and they all of a sudden automatically feel inspired, or you're trying to manifest an idea or bring forth a business, if you are using words that everybody uses, that they don't mean anything to you, you're not going to get anything done. You got to study who you are, your beliefs, your principles, go deeply into the meaning of the things that you want. So when you speak about them, they have that energy with them that makes people pay attention to you. So that's the one thing. They're listening to so many audiobooks, because I go from all the John Maxwell's books, and then I learned something about audiobooks for those who are still listening to this super long podcast. I heard from Craig Beck. If you really want to get a concept from a book, you have to read or listen to it at least 11 times. So there's no book that I've ever put in my hands that I haven't listened to it at least 11 times, because that is the level of reading that will make you understand the actual shit that the author is trying to explain.
Yeah, I live that example on a regular basis, man. I go back to books that really made a dent in my understanding somehow, some way, right? But I make a point out of going back to those books and then rereading. Maybe not necessarily. I don't often do it one time right after the next, or right after the last. I'm sorry, but I will come back to them a couple of months down the road. But one book that I'm always constantly going back to and always reading, it's Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. I've read that book up to this point, I don't know, 15 times.
And I'm sure that you wrote
maybe
the
more.
self-confidence formula, and you read it. And I'm sure that you're committed to memory, put your principles in writing. The Law of Success that Napoleon Hill wrote is something that everybody who's a motivational speaker, that's how their careers have been made.
Absolutely. The interesting thing is, every single time I go back to that book, I pick up something new. I was like, why? I've read this so many times. How did I miss that last part? You know what I mean?
So to me, was that like, it's either to today.
Deeper understanding. Deeper understanding will open doors.
My time, my listening time per year as well, 4.5 months. Out of every 365 days, there's a quarter of the time in which these ears are committed to listening to something that will give me the guarantee to, at least in principle, have ammunition to understand myself better as I continue to evolve as a person. And those who are listening to, and this is a CEO Pulse, I hope that the people in the audience who are listening are far more popular, successful, and competent than me. And if they haven't figured it out with all those talents, I'm going to tell you one thing. If you allow yourself to become obsolete because you don't have the desire to learn something new, guess what? You're going to manifest that. If you say, I'm going to take my ego out of the way, the belief that I know all this, and I'm going to dedicate some time, it doesn't have to be 2 or 3 hours, even 20 minutes of reading will give you the opportunity to add to that process of evolution that everybody has to be responsible for individually in order to collectively move this world to a better place. You know, read and listen. If you can read, listen. If you can listen and read, if you cannot listen or read, learn how to read Braille.
But do something.
But do something.
I always encourage critical thinking, right? Sometimes I've had the question presented where, well, what is critical thinking? How do I start to engage in critical thinking? I like to use books as a facilitator. I'll take a book that is, very extremist in one perspective, and then I'll take something that's completely the opposite. So you start to read a couple of completely opposite points, 2 different authors talking about the same topic, but it's gonna inevitably it's gonna make you question, different things. And that's one thing I think that really helps to stimulate that critical thinking, that creative thinking process as well.
That's the
problem solving.
That is called cognitive dissonance or dissonance, which is you take 2 opposing ideas and you have to be able to create it. It creates pain and discomfort because now you are creating space for a new concept as opposed to what you believed.
Yeah.
And now you have to come to the middle of that
inevitably
process, that's where you grow.
When you put yourself in that space, you question things, right? And that question is an original thought. Yeah, that's where the original thought comes in. That's where the original solutions come in, because you're having original questions that are being triggered by something else.
So anyway, to continue to wrap it up, because I'm sure you're looking at that thing.
No, it's still. I want to make sure it's still recording. That's a thing.
So the stuff was. Then I eventually get invited by a friend of mine who always called me and said, "Come and work for this company." After being homeless, some events happened that I'm going to skip because there's probably a documentary or a book about my life that somebody said is coming out. We have yet to see that. But to make a long story short, his name is Johnny Coate. He used to be a trainer at Bally's when I was a part-time trainer. In my first year in the United States. And then he always called me when I was going through my homelessness. I never told him. And he would say, "Hey, man, I work for this company now. And you would be perfect for the culture that they have here, the way they are, your talent, your charisma. You can talk to anybody." And he didn't know what I was going through, and I would kind of blow him off all the time. One day, I moved from Tucson to Massachusetts to be closer to my family. And then in Massachusetts is where the homelessness took place. So then this guy's calling me and telling me I'm going to have a job. I'm struggling so hard to get something going in Massachusetts. And one day I take the rent from the guy and I take some money that I had and I just drove back to Arizona. When I left Lynn, Massachusetts. I used to live in 100 Empire Street, Lynn, Massachusetts. You can Google map it. You will know exactly where I live, in one room, which is like half the size of this. And Richard was the person in charge of the house. So I left a note to Richard and say, "Hey, Richard, I'm sorry I had to take your money. And one day I'm going to call you back and I'm going to pay you that." And then I left in 2004. And last year, I called Richard and I have it recorded. A friend of mine was recording because he was acquainted with the story. I never got the chance to see Richard. And for the last 7 to 10 years, I've been trying to find the guy so I can pay him his money. Finally, last year, a friend of mine found him. His name is Jose. And I called Richard and I gave him $1,600. I pay him with interest, compounded interest. I owe him $400. 14 years, 15, 16 years later, I call him and say, hey, man, he was crying. It's one of those moments because I wrote a promise on that note. It's a promise one day I will pay you back. And it was affecting me. It will be a fleeting thought that will come in from time to time that will allow me to say, I cannot die with a promise. Like, as simple as it may be, I made a promise. And then last year, thankfully, I was able to compensate this man. He couldn't believe it. He never counted on it, but I hope that it touched him. And like it touched all the people involved with it, with a part of the story. When you owe somebody, pay them. Even if it's late, pay them, because it will give you the opportunity for you to take away the spiritual debt that you create with someone and clear it. And you move forward free like a bird, weightless, filled with gratitude. Don't hold on to a little bit of money because you think you work too hard for it. That shit that we have here was here before, and it will stay here when we're gone. So go back to 2004. I started working for LA Fitness. Boy, what an incredible ride with that company. I found my ultimate mentor. His name was Michael Oliveira, rest in peace. This man was really tough, but never gave up on me. And he allowed me to see my talents in a whole new way. And where it was, my platform before was pure natural charisma. And my platform with him became goal setting, game planning. Now the charisma takes a whole new level. You have to have objectives, from the small conversations to the big conversations to the board meeting to the visit to your neighbors. You have to have objectives of improvement, whether it's improvement on the life that you have, improvement in the relationship you have with someone, improvement on the outcome, how many deals do you close, improvement on the way you look. There's got to be an objective. If you don't plan to, if you fail to plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Plan to fail, yeah.
People say that all the time. So these principles that they seem obnoxious and perhaps the product of corporate America trying to drive people to do more, they are true fundamental principles of success. I never met a person who followed them that didn't get what they wanted and then some. I was one of them. I spent between 2004 and 2011 with LA Fitness. I had tremendous success as a general manager and senior manager. I made more money than I've ever made. I probably made with LA Fitness in those 7 years, close to $1 million as a salesperson and manager. But somehow it's volume. And for those of you who work with leads, brother, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
If your closing percentage is 10%, and you talk to 3 people, you ain't gonna close nothing. If your closing percentage is 10%, and you need to make 3 sales a day, you gotta talk to at least 30 people. If you need to make 10, you gotta talk to 100. If you need to make 20, you gotta talk to 200. But now you're closing 10%, then you become a more polished closer, and now you're closing 20%. And that's what the people see. Someone like me, well, I talk to 100 people, I close 95 of them. When a person comes to train with me, he is a good salesperson. Of course I'm a good salesperson. I'm selling the greatest product a human can buy. It's called health. Are you kidding me? And if I miss that, he's going to give his money to somebody else because he came here because he needs it.
Yeah.
So it happens that you go from understanding volume. You want to be a great salesperson, you got to be willing to make 200 phone calls a day.
Yeah.
Take a few no's. Build your character. Learn how to overcome objections. Don't get deterred by the person telling you, I don't want it. They may be telling you, I don't want it in this moment. I might want it an hour from now or the next day or a year from now. Stay enthusiastic. Don't get nasty with a person when they reject you. Say, thank you so much for your time. There will be a time in which you and I will meet again, and I'll be happy to help you with this service or product. Thank you very much for your time. Remember my name. I'll be here. So you do it with enthusiasm and with decency, but you become relentless. If you're not good at closing, make more phone calls than the other guy. If if you're good at closing, make more phone calls.
They're the other guy. The principle still stays the
So that's
same.
what I did with LA Fitness. And it come down, and then all the other stuff becomes so much easier to do.
Yeah.
They're persuading someone to do it becomes a joke because you're doing it and they see it. How in the world is this guy selling 12 to 50 memberships every day when I can barely close one? Well, you got to have to come talk to me, man.
Yeah.
How? Because I'm a sleazy ass, conniving salesperson? No, listen, progressions, numbers game. Make 100 phone calls, you're going to get 10 sales, I promise you. 3 of them are going to happen because they were supposed to happen. 3 of them are never going to happen, and because you're smart, they happen because the person has no choice, or you don't know. They have the money, they want to spend it. And 3 of them are going to happen because you're skilled.
Yeah.
They are your team, but you have to make contact with 100.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. It's a game changer when you take it from that hustle. And I talk about this all the time, but taking things from a hustle mentality, getting stuff done right, and just out of the skill set of willingfulness, if that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then applying some just structure to it.
Fundamental principles. One of the things I heard from the owner of LA Fitness, Louis Welch, let's disclaimer, he's not my friend. I work for that company. I did so well that he got to know who I was, and I had a number of incredible conversations with this incredibly smart person. He will always say, if you want to be successful and don't know how, find someone successful and do what they did. It's as simple as that. But for you to be able to manifest that principle, you got to remove your bullshit and ego out of it.
Oh, yeah. That can be sometimes the hardest thing to do.
It is the hardest thing to do. Because one grown man telling another man what to do has never been popular.
Yeah.
Until that other grown man accepts, you are better than me in what I do and what we do. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to become a student. I'm going to move my ego out of the way so my capacity to learn will increase. So I can take my own talents, look at the science, see you do your job, acquire that knowledge, put it to practice, and become as good and maybe even better, you don't know, than the person who you feel is all that.
Yeah.
But it has to be by the removal of your ego first.
Absolutely. When you line all that up and you work with it as opposed to against it, great things happen. I mean, look at what you've been able to put together. Muscletopia is a great place to be in. The culture that, again, I can't talk enough good things about it because I see it as a great place, right?
Yeah.
And what you've been able to put together, I mean, it's a compilation of everything that you've been, that you've had an experience with in the past. So everything from, grit, tenacity, hustle mentality, and putting it all together, taking risks, taking action, and really kind of, bringing all this into this ball of wax, along with, the sense of creating solutions and seeing them as opportunities. When other people see it as problems, it's how you end up in the spot where you're
I tell you this. I'm not going to tell you the story of Muscletopia, how I put it together, so we can have the opportunity to do a second podcast.
Done.
But the culture, which you appreciate so much, and I'm thankful for it, is the product of recruiting so many people for jobs for 30 years. And then you take the resume when you talk to them. And we all know that you can write nowadays whatever bullshit that you want in your resume about qualities that you have to impress somebody, or the other side that you might not even be associated with anything that what it means like that, but it looks good. The resume writing is a professional. People make a lot of money with making you sound really cool. I say I had to recruit thousands of people for the various positions I've held, from GNC to LA Fitness and other companies that I run privately. There is one thing that stands out amongst the people who really have the capacity to help a person like me build a culture. And that is the love for the craft that they are trying to work in. If you are in, let's say, in real estate, or you are a person who is in the fitness industry like me, or perhaps you are a doctor, or you work at a farmer's, I don't care what it is, farmer's market, mechanic, whatever profession it is, if you have a passion for it, if you really, really love what you do, then that's the kind of people I attract and I recruit. And the most important thing is I am willing to do anything to invest in the development of those people. If I had to pay a certification or a class, if I had to come out of pocket and give somebody money for them as a means to show them my appreciation for the passion that they have for what they do through my company, they have all my support, because the culture of Muscletopia has been created by identifying people like that. For instance, Rod's loyalty is just beyond words. This dude has an incredible sense of loyalty and commitment to his word that you can count on him, and that's very hard to find. In addition to that, he loves being a trainer. I love being a trainer. Oh yeah,
man. The guy is a beast in his space.
And
you see him get into the flow.
Well, the best part is this, which is something that I wouldn't say give myself credit, but understand that that's what he sees. He sees me. He's not easy to bullshit.
Yeah.
He see me work, and eventually he has developed this desire to say, he calls me OG. Now, he is tapping into my wisdom, taking his ego out of the way.
Yeah.
Which he knows, Ivan is not going to judge me for asking him a question. He's not going to think that I'm a dumbass. He's just excited to help me get better.
Yeah.
And that's just, you can rally around behind a person like that. Then I find Dacia. Dacia comes in. This woman has a tremendous capacity to feel compassion and be cooperative with others. And I offered Dacia an opportunity to come on board. And I found Karen. Karen is an exceptional young woman who, just like Rod, knows how to get her ego out of the way, is willing to learn. And just like me, Rod, Karen is willing to go in the gym and walk the walk.
Oh, yeah.
Because in Muscletopia, every person who is part of the staff is a fucking grinder. It's not like you're going to outdo anybody that works there at that level. You really have to step your game up. And now finally we have recruited Francesca. Francesca is a star. Francesca is a black belt judo, Hungarian champion, European champion of judo, 4-dan black belt, traveled all over the world as a judo fighter. Her whole family, her dad, her siblings, her mom, everybody's black belt in the family.
Wow.
So don't mess with them. But she is also, like, what I consider myself, those individuals are all blue-collar mentality with unique traits of greatness. So you see people working there. I think that the conglomerate of Muscletopia trainers have so many accolades that we could just sit there and live off of them. But that's not what we believe. You gotta come in every day and do your best. And that's what we're building in Muscletopia.
Well, it also carries on to the customers, to the team, to the people who sign up. I mean, I'm there. I know that every time I walk in,
Awesome.
I feel like I'm wired. Like I feel like it's crazy, but I walk into the gym and I feel like I have a responsibility to show up.
There you go.
That's what it feels like.
There's a reason behind
like.
that.
Yeah.
When for so many years, I run so many gyms for other people, and they have their system. You got to respect what they want. But every gym I worked at, I always had the idea to say, if I was the owner of this gym, what would I do different? And one thing that I found different is the way we treat people from the get-go and how consistent we are after the fact. If you are nice with someone and the moment they walk through your business because you're going to get that money, they're going to find out what you're made of a week later.
Oh, yeah.
If your character changes the way you treat them, so we don't change our demeanor to the client, whether they're clients or not. Even if it's a casual visitor, they treat it with the utmost respect. We do have a game plan. It's perfectly orchestrated. The principles of Muscletopia are artistry, mastery, and orchestration. Artistry, we do this stuff with attention to detail. Make it look good even when it's ugly. Mastery, we have clear understanding, deep understanding of what we're trying to do every step of the way. And orchestration is we work within the system together to make sure that the outcome is consistent. So those principles are the principles I created for Muscletopia. Amongst other things, which I hope that I can continue to do that, the employees of Muscletopia, I call them inspirational difference makers. Those individuals are not allowed to tell people, oh, he's the owner of Muscletopia. When they refer to Muscletopia, they say, come to our place. I do not want any employee to feel below me or behind me or next to me. I want them to be on the same page, to have that sense of ownership and gratitude. Because at the end of the day, Rafael, that place is there in 24th Street in Osborne. I happen to have the honor to find all the resources and put it together. It's just like everything that is around anybody listening to the podcast, including yourself and me. All this shit is gonna stay here when we're gone. What gives it power is not the ability for us to hold on to it and own it because we have more than what you do. It's the ability to make it available to somebody else whom in turn will receive a benefit from it. Whether you get compensated or not, that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Muscletopia. When a person goes in there, I don't have to explain. I have a degree in nutrition. I have 17 different certifications. I've traveled literally every place with this knowledge. I've transformed people's lives from the regular person to the professional athlete to the CEO to the millionaire. When a person walks in there, I put all that aside. What can I do for you? Without me looking at myself like I'm so good. No, listen, if I'm as good as I say, I'm going to put all these things aside and I'm going to dedicate this knowledge to you. You deserve it. Last but not least, a principle that I developed early in my life as I discovered the lives of people like Mahatma Gandhi and Mother Teresa. People who have sacrificed their entire life for humanity. I discovered that I could look at you and say, hey, Rafael, for all I know, you could be the next greatest person in the world, and I happen to be the one helping you get there. What a great thing to think about your fellow person in front of you. So when I meet a person, whether it's Rafael, whether it's Rod, whether it's John, whether it's Karen, whether it's Dacia, anybody, Francesca, or any random person, that exchange could be the spark that triggers that understanding on you. You, Rafael Cortez, you could be the next greatest person in the world, and it will only happen if I put my back for you to step to the next level, and I am willing to do that for a random person without expecting anything in return. If you're willing to do that, the all-powerful universe will be available to serve you and help you with the needs you have because you're willing to do anything to see somebody else acquire all the success. That's the core value of Muscletopia USA.
I love it, man. It's at the end of the day, it really comes back to doing well and receiving well. Principles of karma, man. Do good things. Good things are gonna come back at us, and it's without the expectation of it. What makes it beautiful and magical is the fact that that's what we have control over, right? We can have control over what we our actions. How can we impact? How can we help somebody else? What happens outside of that, like that's the cherry on top.
Well,
But
and
you
guess
walk
what?
away
Yes,
with-
you have to be compensated. You have to be remunerated. You have to get paid.
Yeah.
But there is more than one way to get paid beyond the form of money.
Yeah.
You are a person of tremendous success, in my opinion, and you're so young, and there's such a great future for you. I'm sure that if you were to look at the value of a relationship that you can never cash out versus the value of $1. So those relationships, you put the necessary ingredients into it, that you put the fertilizer and the water, that you take care of them, that you don't destroy them. It's like walking in a garden and kicking all the flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
Many people do that. No. There's a reason why these fruits are going to become available at some point. And if they're available to you, it's because you went to the farm and took care of that tree. We all are like trees. We take care of one another. Some, you might gonna have mangoes. I'm gonna have oranges. I cannot only eat oranges on my life. I want to get a mango. If I'm not in good terms with you, I ain't getting no mangoes.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna buy my oranges. So that's what I believe, and that's the ruling principle of Muscletopia is that you, the random person who works in there, you and every one of you could be the next greatest person in the world, and we're there to celebrate you.
Beautiful, man. I love it. Ivan, it's been enlightening. Your story is amazing. It's a true example of adversity and overcoming adversity. Right. Before we sign off, I want to ask you a question. If you if you were walking down the street and you walked into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
I will not tell him anything.
Really?
I will let him discover, like I have discovered step by step, this amazing journey. Because maybe if I tell him what to do, he will fuck it up. And many people ask that. I've been asked before.
That's a first.
But I say I wouldn't tell myself anything. I will let myself be.
Ride the journey.
Listen, because it turned out the right way. And the pain, the difficulties, the vagaries, the vicissitudes, the challenges, however you want to call it, that I have experienced are the ones that give me this peace of mind today. And if I was to tell myself anything about it, I might ruin what the universe had created as the storyline for me to be as resilient and determined as I am today.
I love it, man. I love it. Ivan, if somebody wants to get a hold of you and find out maybe services about Muscletopia, just reach out, have a conversation, message you. What's the best place to find you?
The best way to find me, Muscletopia and everything, is not finding me. You, the audience, I want you to talk to Rafael. I want you to talk to John or anybody that goes there. So instead of me pitching you and telling you about this, telling you the website or the Instagram, I want you to ask somebody that goes to Muscletopia that doesn't work there what that place is all about. Because the greatest endorsement will always come from a client, not from me. So I'm going to leave that to you. You, the audience, thank you so much for watching this and listening. I hope that this story resonates with you. And if you want to find out more about Muscletopia, give Rafael a call. Ask him all the questions you need. Let him tell you what we're about.
We'll do links and all that stuff on the show notes as well.
I'm sorry that I didn't give you what you traditionally get. Yeah, you can find me here and there. No, listen. You, the audience, I'm okay. We're gonna do business. This business is destined to succeed. But if you're gonna be part of that, we prefer another client to tell you exactly what we're all about instead of ourselves.
Yeah, so that works. That works very well. So Ivan, again, thank you so much, man. It's been a blast. I love your story. I appreciate and admire everything that you've done so far. The caliber of person that you are, I mean, it speaks volumes. So
well, I'm
glad
grateful
to have you over, brother.
I'm grateful because you have created a way for me and other people to tell a story that I believe if there's one person in the audience listening to it and they can get something, it's worth it. Sometimes we want to have this audience like there's thousands of people and we're not really inspiring anybody.
Well, go back to when you were 16 years old and then 19 years old. Two small comments, I mean, really created a pivot.
There is something about tenacity,
you, kid. The tenacity, the whatever is said at the right time, it will resonate with people. And I think this is how we do it. We do it by having conversations, right? We do it by looking at examples, by finding out more about the real lives that are happening out there, and the real adversity, and not necessarily going through it, but understanding it from from a vantage point per se, and like sometimes that's enough. That's enough to create a pivot. That's enough to inspire. That's enough to empower somebody else to take a move and to take decisive action.
If you want me to wrap it up with something that I believe that could change someone's life, I can take 30 seconds into it.
No, Ivan, of course. Yes.
Okay, so this is what it is. Attention to the listener and the viewer. Today, whatever day it is that you're listening to this, I want to invite you to dream. I want to invite you to believe that your ideas that have not yet been approved by others are going to become the reason why others will be inspired and moved. I want you to believe and dream that idea that you have, if you put the work, if you have a strong desire behind it, and you vividly imagine the outcome, I want you to believe that it can change your world and the world around you. I want to invite you to dream.
I love it, man. It's a blast. It's an honor. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
It's a wrap.